Clear water fools people faster than dirty water ever will, because once it looks safe, your brain stops asking questions. That mistake is exactly how people poison themselves fast. And in a real emergency, that one bad sip can snowball. Most people purify water wrong, and they never know why. Before we get into it, subscribe for more hidden methods, because normal systems fail faster than most people expect. Now imagine the lights die and stores empty by sundown. You find a stream, a pond, or a bucket from the rain. The water looks clear enough, so your fear starts fading. That is when people make the dumbest choice of all. They trust their eyes more than the actual biology there. And biology does not care what looks harmless to humans. Bacteria, parasites, and viruses do not need muddy water. Some of the worst water on Earth can look perfectly clean. That is the first mistake that gets people wrecked fast. They think clear means clean, and clean means drinkable. But clear only means you cannot see the problem there. That is a massive difference once survival gets involved. A crystal glass can still hide enough danger to ruin you. And once vomiting or diarrhea starts, your odds collapse. Because dehydration in a crisis is not a small setback. It drains strength, focus, and decision-making very fast. That is why water mistakes kill before hunger even matters. So what do people usually do wrong after that first lie? They pick one method and treat it like magic forever. They boil once and assume every danger is now gone. They use a cheap filter and call the problem finished. They add drops randomly without reading the dosage first, or worse, they throw powder in and hope for miracles. Real purification is not one trick used in isolation. It is a layered process built on source and context. The source matters before any treatment even begins. Rainwater is different from swamp water or flood runoff. A mountain stream is not the same as roadside puddles. Water near farms or factories can hide chemical threats. And no simple survival hack fixes every threat at once. That is the second mistake people make under pressure. They use the wrong method for the wrong water source. A filter can remove some microbes and debris very well. It does nothing useful against every chemical hazard. Boiling kills organisms, but leaves metals still inside. Clarifying powders can settle dirt without making it safe. So the right question is never, what is the best hack? The right question is, what kind of water is this? That question alone separates planning from blind panic. Because panic wants speed, while survival demands sequence. First, choose the safest source you can realistically find. Moving water usually beats stagnant water every single time. Rain caught cleanly can beat sketchy streams and ditches. Floodwater is often far worse than desperate people think. It carries sewage, fuel, chemicals, and every rotten thing. Now here comes the mistake most people never notice. They purify the water, then contaminate it right after. They pour clean water into a filthy old container again. They touch the rim with dirty hands and call it done. They mix treated and untreated water in the same bottle. That destroys the whole point of purification completely. This is where survival videos often sell pure fantasy. They love dramatic hacks but skip boring storage rules. But boring rules are what keep treated water safe. Use clean containers and keep untreated water separate. Mark them clearly if your brain will be stressed later. Do not trust memory when exhaustion starts crushing focus. Stress makes simple systems feel way harder than usual. That is why good preparedness always looks repetitive. It is repetition that saves you when panic kicks in. Another ugly mistake is rushing the treatment time. People boil too briefly and assume heat solved it all. They add tablets and drink before the timer is done. They run water through filters too fast and too often. Every method has a process, and the process matters. Cutting corners does not save time if it gets you sick. It just moves the damage a few hours down the road. This is where most households are weaker than they think. They have no backup plan once the first method fails. No fuel, no spare filter, no tablets, no containers. So every bad choice starts multiplying from there onward. That is why layered water planning matters so much. You want source awareness, pre-treatment, disinfection, and storage. Not one cheap trick you saw online 5 minutes ago. If you want the full survival system, hit the link below. It breaks down water, food, and emergency prep step by step. Because one video can warn you, but systems keep you ready. Now let us get into the deadliest water myth of all. It sounds smart, feels safe, and ruins people every year. And once you hear it, you will notice it everywhere. The myth is simple, and that is why it spreads fast. If the water looks clean and tastes normal, it is safe. That sentence has probably hurt more people than dirty water. Because it sounds reasonable, right, until your body disagrees. And your body usually disagrees at the worst possible time. In the next part, I will show you the right sequence. And that sequence matters more than any one tool you own. So what does purifying water the right way look like? It starts with humility, not gear, and not fake confidence. You assume the water is unsafe until you prove otherwise. That mindset alone removes half the dumb mistakes people make. Then, you ask the first question that actually matters. What is the cleanest source I can reach right now? Not the nearest source, but the cleanest source available. Distance is annoying, but sickness is worse every time. If you can choose between stagnant and moving water, choose flow. If you can choose between floodwater and rain, choose rain. If animals, chemicals, or sewage are nearby, walk away. That decision matters more than your favorite purification method. Once you collect the water, look at what it contains. If it is muddy or full of floating debris, settle it first. Let gravity pull down the larger junk before you do more, then clarify or pre-filter before you disinfect anything. This step improves the next step instead of replacing it. That is the key people keep getting backward online. Pre-treatment helps later methods work more effectively. It does not magically finish the survival problem for you. If you use cloth, strain only the larger visible debris. If you use settling powder, let the particles drop fully. If you use a filter, respect its actual limitations. Then comes disinfection, which is where people rush hardest. Boiling is reliable when you can spare fuel and time. Chemical treatment works if dosage and waiting time are right. Good filters work if they are genuine and well maintained. The mistake is choosing one method with blind faith. The smart move is using layers whenever layers are possible. Settle, filter, disinfect, and then protect the result. That sequence is less sexy, but way harder to fail. Now let us talk about post-treatment contamination again, because this is where clean water dies after being saved. If your storage bottle was dirty, you're back to zero. If your hands touch the mouth, you're adding risk again. If you pour from a dirty scoop, you're ruining it. People obsess over purification and ignore handling after. That is like locking your door, then leaving it open. Another mistake is stockpiling methods without ever testing them. A lot of people buy gear because fear sells well online. But gear you never practiced with is just expensive optimism. Try your filter before an outage makes learning stressful. Test your tablets before panic starts counting the minutes. Practice labeling containers and building a simple sequence. Because complexity collapses fast when people get tired. And survival problems always arrive with extra friction attached. It is dark, cold, late, noisy, or emotionally chaotic. That is why simple routines beat clever improvisation. Now let us kill another myth that sounds very smart. Some people think natural means safe and artificial means risky. So they trust streams, springs, and rain without real checks. Nature is not automatically cleaner than urban tap backup. Animals defecate upstream and parasites do not ask permission. Agricultural runoff can move miles before you notice it. And even a beautiful stream can carry a brutal surprise. That is why aesthetics are a terrible survival strategy. Pretty water can still send you into medical collapse. The goal is not finding magical water from Fantasyland. The goal is reducing risk with good decisions in order. That is how real preparedness works under ugly conditions. You identify the threat, reduce what you can, then protect it. Every part of that chain matters when water is scarce, and every broken link becomes a bigger problem later. This is also why panic buying fails so spectacularly. People buy bottled water after headlines already feel scary. They buy one gadget and call themselves prepared for chaos. Prepared. People do not chase certainty after the crisis starts. They build options before stress turns every task stupid. That is what your household actually needs most in reality. Not fantasy toughness, but boring systems that still work tired. Because fatigue destroys judgment faster than ego wants to admit. So if you remember anything from this video, remember this. Clear water is not proof, and one method is not a plan. Choose the best source, pre-treat, disinfect, then protect. That sequence will save more people than any viral hack. If you want the full off-grid survival vault, use the link. It gives you practical guides built for real emergencies. Water methods, checklists, and emergency basics are all there. So when things go sideways, you are not guessing from fear. You are following a system you already understand clearly. That is the whole difference between panic and preparedness. One feels reactive, while the other creates useful options. And useful options are what keep people from making fatal errors. If this changed how you think about safe-looking water, subscribe. The next video breaks down another cheap method people misuse. And this one fails in a completely different way. Most people will wait until discomfort forces them to learn. That is exactly why they stay fragile under pressure. Learn early, prepare smart, and stop trusting clear water. Because the mistake is common and the cost can get brutal. Now you know why most people purify water wrong. And now you know the sequence that gives you a chance.